The Panama Canal is one of the world's most vital shipping routes. About 14,000 vessels transit the waterway annually, including about 40% of all U.S. container traffic. But recent droughts have plagued the artery. A drought in 2023 and 2024 forced the canal's operator, the Panama Canal Authority, to enact weight restrictions and limit vessel transits to 18 ships per day. About 36 ships cross the canal daily. The drought was Panama's worst in over 70 years. But how does a 50-mile-long waterway connected by two oceans run low on water? Gatun Lake, built in large part by the U.S. in the early 1900s, sits on a mountain range at the center of the canal. It supplies fresh water to operate the canal's 4 sets of locks. The problem, water levels at Gatun Lake fell 8 feet below average.
One of the things that people did not realize is that the Panama Canal operates on fresh water, and then we are rainfall dependent.
How does the water level impact the business of the Panama Canal when it's too low?
If levels are too low, then ships cannot load as much cargo, so they will not run business as usual.
During the drought, it was necessary for vessels to be a lot lighter in order to traverse the canal. And one way that the companies did this was to offload containers. Companies like Maersk use the land bridge, and that is directly behind me. To prepare for future droughts, the Panama Canal Authority plans to spend $1.6 billion and build a new reservoir that would hold 1.2 billion cubic meters of water. But the proposed Rio Indio project is facing resistance. The new reservoir would be built by flooding 17 square miles of land, impacting an estimated 2,500 people. Olegario Hernandez's village will be at the bottom of the reservoir if the plan moves forward.
They said it's going to rise 100 meters high. I don't want to leave because my land is enough for me to support myself. I can't support myself there.
To get a first-hand look at how droughts are impacting the Panama Canal, the challenges canal operators face, and the people impacted, CNBC boarded a tugboat and a motorized canoe in Panama.
That's the sound of a whistle.
That's 3. What does that mean?
That means 3 whistles back. Now he's pulling back the ship in order to brake.
Instead of making the 21-day trip around the tip of South America, about 14,000 ships take the 10-hour journey across the Panama Canal annually. The U.S. uses the canal more than any other nation. About 71% of cargo traversing the canal originates or is destined for the U.S. But crossing the Panama Canal is a challenging task requiring precision on the part of sailors, rope handlers, engineers, and pilots. It also requires favorable winds and a lot of water.
When you're inside the chambers, you're a very reduced space. If I don't pull him fast enough, he can touch the other side of the locks.
What's the biggest challenge that you faced on the water?
The biggest challenge here is the wind. A large vessel can be moved by the wind.
But water, or the lack of water, might be an even bigger issue. The Panama Canal uses a system of 12 locks arranged in sets of 3, which act as water elevators. A significant amount of fresh water used to operate the locks comes from Gatun Lake, which sits 85 feet above sea level.
Every time we do a lockages, since we have to open the gates or let a ship go up to the ocean, we let go close to more than 50 million gallons of water to the ocean.
We use about 2.5 times the amount of water a city of the size of New York uses every single day.
Droughts, generally caused by El Niño weather patterns, exacerbate the problem. Panama has experienced a number of droughts in recent years. Less water means restrictions on cargo and ships.
When the drought hits, then the lake levels start going down because there's no more rain to supply the water. Whenever we go below 85 feet of elevation, we have to restrict draft.
Restricting draft means limiting how deep a vessel can sit in water. When you have to lower the draft by, say, 3 feet, how many pounds do the ocean carriers need to lighten the load in order to meet that draft.
For every feet that we restrict one of these big container ships, it's close to between 300 and 500 containers that they cannot put through.
The last drought to hit Panama began in late 2022. By January 2024, it was one of the worst in the canal's history, creating bottlenecks as vessels were turned away in an effort to conserve water. Canal vessel transits in 2024 fell 29% compared to the prior year. LNG vessels and bulk carriers which carry U.S. grain were hit the hardest. LNG vessel transits were down 65%, and dry bulk transits were down 107%. Without a solution, drought conditions could limit the canal's capacity by 50% by 2050, having devastating consequences for U.S. commerce.
We used to get an El Nino probably every 7 years. Now every 3 to 4 years that we're getting an El Nino now.
Dedicated teams at the Panama Canal Authority track and monitor water levels. To get a first-hand look at their work, we took a boat trip with meteorologist Gloria Rocha Paz.
Lake Gatun is so large that you could fit the equivalent of 2 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. You can see the level of the lake against the ruler. That's like your true measure. And then we have a sensor that transmits the data almost real time. This lake, we measure 3 points because it's a large lake, and you have to measure the elevation at different points to have an idea of the average elevation. And then with that you can calculate volume.
Those measurements are critical. Not only is the waterway an essential artery for transporting goods from Asia to the U.S. and back, it also provides drinking water for about half of Panama's 4.5 million people. To help alleviate the impact of future droughts, the canal's operator, the Panama Canal Authority, plans to spend $1.6 billion to dam the nearby Indio River, creating a new reservoir. Of that, $400 million is earmarked to compensate and relocate communities. The new reservoir will be connected to Gatun Lake by a 5-mile-long mountain tunnel. It would give the canal an additional 15 transits a day during the dry season, which lasts from January to May. It would also provide up to 970 million gallons of water per day to the canal's lakes, ensuring drinking water for the country. But the plan is facing opposition. About 2,500 villagers from 500 families would be impacted by the reservoir, including many whose homes would be displaced by the new lake.
This area will be underwater and the people will be relocated in other area. And some mountains or elevation like that will be the barrier that will contain the waters inside the reservoir.
Karina Vergara is an environmental and social manager for the Panama Canal Authority.
We have more or less 37 communities that will be impacted in a manner by the Lake of Rio Indio.
One of those communities is La Boca de Lloracio, a remote village of about 200 residents nestled along the Indio River. CNBC was the first video crew to visit the community.
In the footprint of the lake, we have 10 schools, 8 cemeteries, 20 churches, 20 areas for meetings in the communities.
Hipólito Martinez was born here. He is a teacher and the principal at the school.
What I like most about my town, my area, is the tranquility, the safety, the air, the nature itself.
Like many residents we spoke to, Martinez didn't have clarity on where he would be moved to or how much he would be compensated. Other residents, like Mariledes Castillo, said they don't want to move at all. Castillo from the nearby village of Limón has lived here her entire life.
I really wouldn't accept any kind of money because my land is priceless. There may be a lot of money involved, but the money is really worthless to us farmers. One feels bad and sad because, well, they don't have an answer for us about where we're going to go, and we're people who grew up here since we were children, were born, grew up, and continue to live here.
Money for the Rio Indio project would come from the Panama Canal Authority, which had net income of about $3.4 billion in 2024 and almost $5 billion in total revenue. The project is currently being challenged in Panama's Supreme Court.
A formal or informal title on the land it will be respected. And this is the first and foremost task that we have to perform.
We need to do individual arrangement with each family. So if you have a farm with 5 hectares, the first option is to provide another farm with 5 hectares.
To combat drought, vessel restrictions, and congestion, some shippers have pivoted to roads and trains running alongside the canal.
When the dry season comes into the canal, there's where the trucking took over, and it goes up like probably 35% more was the movement that we do during that time.
Gira Poyser is the CEO of Bless Group, a trucking company with 120 rigs. Her company moves containers between ports on the Atlantic and Pacific sides of the waterway.
We've been in this business for 26 years. And we could see a lot of drought going on since 2000 and probably 2006. But I think the longest one was the past one.
Did you have to hire more people?
Double more people. And I have to hire more trucks too.
Other shippers have shifted to the rails. In 2024, ocean carrier Maersk opened a land bridge and pulled some containers off ships before entering the canal. The containers were then put on a train, sent cross-country by rail, and reloaded onto vessels on the other side of the canal. Behind me is the land bridge, and this is where the containers are offloaded at the port of Balboa from the ships, and they're put into piles where they are then either transported by truck or by rail. In 2025, Maersk purchased the ability to operate the Panama Canal Railway from CPKC and U.S.-based Lanco Group. The railway has the ability to absorb extra container traffic during periods of congestion and drought, with the added benefit of avoiding canal fees. Large cargo ships are charged anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000, depending on what locks they use, and face additional charges including booking reservations, tenders, tug services, and piloting services.
A 17,000 TEU vessel, like the 7 we transited last year, they pay about $1.3 million to transit.
A TEU, or 20-foot equivalent unit, is the industry standard to measure cargo capacity for ships and terminals. One 20-foot container can hold about 400 flat-screen TVs. Canal operators are also looking at other options near the waterway. What are you doing now in order to invest in your future for the growing demand of LNG and LPG?
We have decided that we're going to do a land bridge to complement the waterway. And some of the things that we're doing is having a gas line moving products from the Atlantic to the Pacific.
The Panama Canal Authority is studying the possibility of adding a 1 million barrel per day pipeline to transport ethane and liquid petroleum gas from the Caribbean to the Pacific side of the canal. The pipeline would allow more LNG carriers to transit the canal. Asian LNG demand is expected to double by 2050. The U.S. is the world's biggest exporter of LNG. Will this land bridge be faster than traversing through the canal with the vessel?
It will be competitive and time-wise, but reliability will be higher. And because it's not water dependent, then it will not be subject to climate change considerations.
Despite those issues, canal operators expect cargo and goods moving through the waterway to surge in the coming years. Much of that flow depends on the Rio Indio project. Construction is expected to begin in 2027 and could take at least 5 years to complete. The Panama Canal Authority is actively preparing for the next drought, which is expected in late 2026.
So we expect that before the end of this decade, we will be moving probably 35% more cargoes through Panama, not only the Panama Canal, but the Panama Canal and all the ancillary businesses.
Talk to me in terms of how many vessels have increased over the years because of commerce.
In the beginning, there were 20 to 25, then increased to 30, and nowadays we have 36 to 38 transits in one day.